From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Why are you a conspiracy theorist? And I said, why isn't everybody a goddamn conspiracy theorist?
This is the real research. Literally have an alien base, and they are literally communicating.
I don't have a whole lot of time.
Have you personally had any experience with interdimensional beings?
What we're thinking of as aliens, they have infiltrated a lot of aspects of military intelligence. And they are not what they claim to be.
We leave you much that is undone.
It's one small step for man.
There are great ideas undiscovered.
Visit asteroids, visit the moon of Mars.
Remove one of truth's protective layers.
There's a monolith.
They want the major population centers wiped out.
Will you put your left hand on the Bible and swear to God that you walked on the moon?
One giant leap for mankind.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
Those challenges are yours.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
There are places to go beyond belief. Beyond belief.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Conspiracy Podcast. We don't take days off because reptilians don't take days off. And tonight we are joined by Flex and Greg from Strange Sauna Podcast. Thank you for coming back on the show, guys.
Anytime. Thanks for having us.
The four reptilians.
The reptiles are among us, you know, and sometimes they like to go to war. You know, that's what we're going through now.
Reptile dysfunction is what's going on right now.
There it is, dude. Reptile dysfunction.
Can't take a blue pill for that. You gotta take the red pill.
It's true.
I've never seen a reptile's penis, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Inverted, I heard. I don't know. Very
I imagine barbed.
Yeah, barbed. Yep.
Could be. You know, what I find interesting just before we start is if you look at cats' eyes, their eyes look like reptilian. It doesn't like tigers and leopards and cheetahs don't. Cats' eyes are reptilian, so we'll have to.
So you think they derive from a reptile?
We have to do a deep dive on that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I mean, I've got a cat upstairs, and I'm not. I don't want him to kill me.
No,
it's like
they rule the world
and stuff.
Yeah.
So they're just the spies. That's why they wanted you to domesticate the cats, because they relay all these internal thought messages back to the reptilian race.
It's like we never see baby pigeons either, right? It's just like, what's going on?
Yeah, they don't exist. They're birds. The birds are robots.
That's it, man.
Baby pigeons.
I just blew Lee's mind. He's like, what the?
No, you get the baby pigeons gets me because there's lots of pigeons where I live.
No, they exist. I think I killed
what?
that. No. It was an accident. It was an accident, but like, well, I didn't even do it. My big fat uncle did it. He cut a tree down in our garden.
It's one of those things. Damn.
It had pigeons. I think they were baby pigeons anyway, because they were grey. And I saw the pigeon kind of looking really like displeased. Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that was mum or dad. Yeah. So I put them back on the fence in the nest, and
even the dead one, you just kind of
they weren't dead. They were kind of like just like a little like I don't know.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a baby pigeon ever. Maybe when I was a kid, because you'd see these nests, but I don't know that. And then the other thing we have to look into one day is where are they burying all the bodies, because they're not building any more cemeteries. And I have a video that this guy broke down the math on stuff, and he was like, I don't think there's 8 billion people on this world. I think they've fudged the numbers.
They're just burning them now, right?
Well, yeah, but it's called cremation, Greg. Yeah. Burning them.
Burn them in a fire, you know? Get rid of the body.
We're just burning them.
Yeah. You know?
I'm right with you there, Flex. I've said this on the podcast before. I think there is less people than what they're saying. I think they show us lots of things.
Yeah. I'll send you a video that I saved on Instagram, and this guy does the math, and he's only doing it with the population of the U.S. I know you guys are over in the UK and up here in Canada, and Greg is in the U.S. Superpower, the free world.
Yep.
The American dream.
I'm about to get blown up. Somewhere here is going to get a nuke. I don't know who, but
it's called the American dream because they're asleep, folks. That's why it's called the American dream.
Exactly.
Jesus.
Well, hey, since we're talking about depopulation here, so when I last was on the show, we talked about the Georgia Guidestones collapsing and whether that was intentional, was that on accident, or was that like a sign that they were sending saying, hey, it's time to deploy our plans and let's get this thing rocking and rolling. And so to my knowledge, they never caught the guy or girl who destroyed the Georgia Guidestones. Like, no one has been punished for this, even though they have clear footage of like the white Chrysler or whatever it was that got away. And so I don't know, like the stuff that you're seeing nowadays with the war agenda, if we have been lied to about the world's population, we're definitely not as populated as we think we are.
Yeah.
You see like all these charts and stuff. Elon Musk comes out and talks about how the United States population is actually on the decline. Likewise, around the world, you see various countries, their populations are on the decline as well. So I'm kind of there with you. I think that like all of these statistics, I think we've been lied to about everything. It's hard to tell what's real, what's not,
So what number would you throw out there? I would say probably 2 billion. And that's why during the 2020, and all this, I think if you have 2 billion people, maybe 3 billion, and you can get rid of 500 million or 1 billion people, and like, what's his name? Jesus, I can't remember his name. Owned Microsoft. Bill Gates was saying in that TED talk. So I feel it's around 2 billion. What do you think there, Greg? What do you think? It's not 8.
Yeah, picturing just 1 billion people in general is like my brain can't even go there. So honestly,
that's what these big numbers are for, isn't it? It's
right.
You can't visualize them.
Well, even like when you enter a town and you see population 60,321, like I'm like, okay, is it really? Like, how do you? No. Why is that number always there on that sign? What happens if you have a massive influx of people? You know what I mean? Like, are you updating the sign every year? Anyway, I think that they definitely, because you see how a smaller population would be easier to control, right?
Yeah. They give us hints and clues when they say you could put the whole population of the U.S. in Texas and everybody would have 1 or 2 acres worth of land. So that kind of gives it away. I know you guys have 333 million people,
something like that
number. And up here in
There's
Canada,
that 33 again.
Oh boy. Canada, I believe, is 41 million. And we just let in a whole bunch of people the last few years, just like the US, and the UK has done the same thing, which is all by design. You bring in these people and you fudge your numbers. They fudge everything. Like, I'm excited if and any of this comes out, because I know anything they've told us is just fudge packed. It's just nothing.
Right.
Well, that's why I always thought with the vaccine and stuff like that, when you kept being told that you had like a 98% fucking take-up rate and stuff like that. I think there was much less of that stuff stuck into people than was said there was.
Yeah.
So a lot of placebos going around, you think?
Oh, just people like us that just thought, do you know what? It's not for me. I'm just
going
to stay home today.
Right.
But
or they've lied about it. They've lied about it because they wanted to fit the norm. Up here in Canada, it feels like everybody took one, right? It's just kind of like, But I agree. I think a lot of people were just silent about it, just like people that voted for Trump that maybe don't want to say they voted for Trump were silent about it and stuff like that. So,
well, as far as like depopulation go, like the traditional way is start a war, right? And now we have on the cusp, at the brink of war, is Iran and Israel, I should say. And the United States is teetering back and forth on whether or not they should enter, even though we sell them billions and billions of dollars of like weaponry and, defense just every single year. So it's like, at what point do you separate from being in the war? It's like we gave them all of these munitions and it's like they're using them to bomb and all this. I don't know. But where this is going, I don't know. What do you guys think about this whole war? Like, did Israel really bomb first? Was it warranted? Do you think Iran is really a threat? Do you buy any of this? What are your guys' takes?
I don't know. I've got this horrible feeling that because we were talking about somewhere getting like a nuke thrown at us or something like that. I don't think it will be the US that gets hit. I think it'll be somewhere sort of inconsequential, like England, for instance. You know, something like that. You know, just like an allied country that just like to show some force.
Okay,
but I don't know, because we get this so much now where there is these huge big like fear events come up and they just percolate for a while and then they go back down, almost like it's more important to create that anxiety in people than it is to actually do something.
Right. Do you think that there's something to that, like creating the aura, the fear in a mass population that triggers something, like at a spiritual level?
We can go down the line of like loose harvesting and stuff like that, can't you?
Right.
You know, I'll always stick with this when it comes to these things. I think the timelines for this stuff, because it's where you can get super weird super quickly, can't you? When it comes to like them forming these things. And the way I look at it is, if you go back and go, because you could start like 9/11, but if you go 9/11, you could go back to JFK. Then if you go JFK, you can go back further and further and further.
Lusitania,
doesn't seem
Pearl
to be a human
Harbor.
timeline.
Yeah,
but it doesn't seem to be a human timeline. Do you know what I mean? It seems to be like something else that's behind the scenes, like pulling strings. Because I don't believe like great grandpappy Rothschild had an idea, and we're seeing the fruits of it today.
Right. And it's so strange because like I think about this whole like Israel controls the world like conspiracy, and you know I can definitely see where people are coming from with that, because but at what point was it like, oh yeah, Israel has to own everything, or like at what point were they given this power, and did they just slowly build it up over time, you know, manipulating, you know, taking advantage of different factions? And
probably the early 1900s with the Rockefellers, the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic, the putting in the Fed, because I just saw something recently where they said, you know, the 30s is when there's always a Great Depression and a massive reset and a massive financial 1730s, 1830s, 1930s. Now we're going into the 2030s. So I think it's all just sort of scripted around that. But as we know, war, they can put in their shadow governments. They can disrupt governments. They can reset the financial system, you know, because both sides are funded. They can depopulate. They can launder money. It's just something that I feel like, you know, it's the same people that are running stuff. They just pick different scenarios.
Right.
The Ukraine and Russia one didn't work for them. Nobody fell for that. And I think that was sort of like their first test to be like, can we get Ukraine and Russia to go at it? And now everyone's forgotten about that. Well, not Canada. We just gave them another $40 billion. But
that's you know, they got to keep it going, you know.
That's it. So I feel it's just, you know, the roll of the dice. It's a game show. New contestants. The rules are the same. You still spin it. Ask for a vowel. Ask for a continent. Try to figure out the letters on the screen. But it's always just different competitors. And right now it's Israel and Iran.
There is something to the timing though, because you brought up, you know, 2030. Everything is about 2030, like the agenda, like the 2030 agenda for the the UN 17 sustainable goals, implement these by 2030. And even Trump's talking about by 2030 we'll have like this AI dominance and all this stuff with his Project Stargate, which we can get into. But Israel, Netanyahu has been saying that Iran is weeks away from building a bomb for the last 45 years. So it's why now is it just are they taking action to bomb these preemptively, you know?
I'm going to throw a chicken in the works here.
Mm-hmm.
What if there are no such things as nuclear weapons?
See, I was thinking that. I was thinking that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if because that's the thing that holds over the entire world. All the world's thinking, "Holy shit, nuclear war." Mm-hmm. What if there isn't a nuclear weapon? Yeah. And Lee, I know your auntie. She survived a nuclear bomb.
You did, Lee?
Yeah. No, his auntie.
Okay.
My auntie was in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. Her whole family were killed, and she was, as a small child, was sent off to the Isle of Man to live out the rest of her years, and she lived 93, I think. She survived. You know, it's
wow. And she wasn't even charred.
She wasn't even charred. She didn't even have any crusty bits. Well, she probably did by 96, but not those crusty bits.
Some dingleberries every now.
When you watch footage of the desert when they're dropping the bomb, and you see the roof and the house just go like this,
right?
The trees don't go anywhere, and the cars don't go anywhere.
Yeah,
it's just, I think that's a miniature. I think I agree with Ollie here. I've actually seen quite a few people.
It's like Terminator 2, Fletch.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like they obviously use it for fear. That's their control.
Right.
That's their excuse to go and to find weapons of mass destruction. Yes. Well, how did that go well for you guys there, Greg, and the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's like their excuse to go to war with another country is to say they have nukes.
Yeah.
But here's the deal: is like, what is the difference between a nuclear weapon and an atom bomb? Right? Because if we dropped 2 atom bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when I'm thinking nuclear, I'm thinking years and years of nuclear waste. You got to clear this stuff out. You have to get in there with hazmat suits.
Radiation.
I mean, they were rebuilding Hiroshima within a couple of years.
Day. Yeah, it was like any sort of disaster. As soon as it happened, is the terrible circumstances happen to people that are around it, and it's time to start going in, finding bodies. Like moving rubble, that sort of thing. That happened immediately.
Right.
I always think of the name of the power station is escaped.
Chernobyl.
Yeah, because we're told we can't go near that. There's the little tour road where they'll take you around, like the swimming pool and the old play park and stuff like that. And there's Geiger counters there that they'll show you crackling away. Yeah, if it's completely unsustainable by life, how come that whole area has been completely reclaimed by nature?
Right.
Did you see the helicopter, Lee? Have you seen the helicopter? The actual real footage, not from the TV series. The helicopter just bends in half when it's over. It's over the plant, and it's lowering something in to try and put the fires out, and the helicopter it bends and do you know what it looks like? It looks like the Twin Towers when the Twin Towers started to go.
I thought you were going to say it looked like AI, because that's another thing is how do we know they haven't been selling us AI videos for the last 25 years?
Yeah,
I heard you say this, Greg, because I've said this before on the show as well, because the military, what do they say? There's something like 80 years ahead, or is it 10 years ahead?
Right.
In some cases, 80 years ahead. What if they've had that AI for since the moon landing?
Yeah, they have. I think they used AI, and especially holograms with the planes. There's a very famous shot of the second plane hitting where the wing disappears behind it. And I'm a video editor, so I'm always picking out green screens and stuff. And when I look at it now and I see that plane, they always show it and the wing kind of disappears. And the way there's a bit of a flash before the nose of the plane hits the building, which is a bomb going off. People are like, well, how do they get bombs in there? And I said, well, if you ever heard of the Israeli art students that lived there for 2 months, and there's photos of them in the Twin Towers with boxes behind them with this number. And when you type that number in, it's military grade fuses. But they could have also used direct energy weapons that day, because they've had that for years. The way it could just... I think they do a little bit of everything. A little bombs, a little direct energy weapon, a little AI, a little CG. I think a lot of people who believe in the plan still, and think this is all just being played out, is like none of this is happening.
You're talking about Patriots in Control, QAnon, that kind of stuff, right?
QAnon, yeah, stuff like that.
Well, Flex, you're a video edit. You do a lot of video editing, and I remember seeing that plane wing going through that building, and everybody said that it's just image artifacting. As far as I know, you're not going to get an image artifact that would do it that way and put the wing behind the building. And also that I believe you can only find that now on Rumble if you look. Because they scrapped it from YouTube completely.
And they had one shot. It was from a distance, so the World Trade Centers were out here. The camera was out, and when you saw the second plane hit, the nose of the plane came out the other side of the building.
Right.
And when it was live, we caught it, and I caught that live. And I remember some people talked about, man, the force of that plane went right through. The edited version, there's no nose. So what happened is they CG'd the plane behind the building, and they didn't cut it before the nose popped out. So there's all these interesting kind of framing shots that they did, and they had the camera pulled out, then they zoomed in and stuff like that. And people, you can tell the people that are saying there was planes. The gas, the fuel burnt the steel. Like, these are Kreisig actors. When you see the people that really were there and not scripted, all said explosions going off. And when the first plane hit, you could see the ground, smoke coming out of the front lobby. And it's that very famous video where these guys, I think the firefighters, are down on the floor looking. And they crop the video so you can't see street level, but there are videos where you see dust coming out. And that's why people were coming out of the basement or elevator on fire. So every time the plane hit up here, they were blowing off explosions down here. Right. So I think they used explosions, and I also think they probably used direct energy weapons to blow the central core of that as well.
Yeah, I think they just planted detonation or explosives and detonated them. And the biggest proof for that was Building 7. If you look at how that just fell from a freaking office fire, I mean, that doesn't happen, bro.
No, isn't there a footage as well of the firemen from Building 7 pushing people back, saying we're going to pull the building?
Yeah. And then whoever owns it, what is his name?
Larry Silverstein.
Right.
Was like, we pulled the building.
Yeah, it made him the decision to pull it.
You had this Air India plane hit a building, concrete building, and the building
just recently.
The building is still standing.
How do you guys feel about that, though, when you see the picture of that plane?
I don't think that's even real. I don't think that's real.
Well, so we watched the video on our last episode, Flex and I did, and the video, it's taken from far away, so you can see the plane disappear in the horizon, and then you just see a massive explosion. Like, it could be AI, it could just be something else that blows up, but then the pictures of the plane, like you guys were saying, it's resting on top of this building. And like the nose is sticking out one end of the building, the tail is sticking out.
And the entire 2 blocks around it looked like a direct energy weapon. Cars were charred. There was like an explosion.
I think that's just how it looks there, to be fair.
And I'm sitting there going like, here's the plane up here. How is all this explosion like half a kilometer or miles? I don't know what you guys are away. So I look at it being like, that building didn't collapse, and you have a much bigger plane apparently than it was in 9/11 just sitting there. And it's just, again, people just fall for it because they just believe what's on TV. They don't.
Well, the biggest crazy thing about that we kind of covered on our last episode is the Flight 717. There was a book called Flight 717, and it was about a group of high school students who went on this 4-hour flight, and they had to make a sacrifice. So they had to kill one of the students, or one of the students had to die, or the whole plane was going to crash. It was something about like this evil spirit was captured whatever was on the flight.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like pre-programming, predictive programming with Final Destination 1. You know what I mean? Kid gets a vision that the plane's going to go down and stuff like that. So they're always kind of telling us this shit. And you know, this guy happened to survive the seat he was in, and I just saw something just this morning saying if you want to fly on seat 11A, it's the most expensive seat to get now. And I'm like, oh my god! Like,
did you see the Chinese guy that survived the plane crash?
No,
and he was the only one that survived. Guess what seat he was on?
11A.
11A.
Yeah, it was like 30 something years ago. It was like in the 70s or something
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, same kind of story, just repeating itself.
Wild.
I think that where they're going with all these plane crashes is like cyber attacks. But before we get on that, I had a theory about this nuke stuff. And I just kind of dropped it in our Telegram, the Strange Sauna Conspiracies Telegram chat, which you guys are invited to join anytime. I mean, by all means.
We'll jump in it.
So what if, for years and years, it's been speculated that Israel has nuclear weapons. And there's even a theory out there that that's why JFK was assassinated, because he was kind of going after Israel to get them to sign this non-proliferation treaty, get them to sign up as like a foreign entity, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But he wanted to get over there and perform inspections on their nuclear capabilities program. And Israel was saying, no, we're not going to have that and all this stuff, right? And then within a week or so, he's killed, and then Lyndon B. Johnson comes in, and all of that hot talk about inspecting nuclear programs goes away.
Just got thrown out. Yeah.
So then you have all of these. So, and why that's a big deal is that per the Non-Proliferations Treaty Act, you cannot send or arm weapons or money or all that stuff to a country that has nuclear weapons, right? So we can't. You know, that's why the whole Obama sending $1 million to Iran, or like had millions of dollars on this pallet in cash. That was a big deal because it's like that's against this international treaty thing. So it's never been fully disclosed whether or not Israel has nuclear weapons. Everybody kind of thinks that they do because, you know, the writing's on the wall. But I had this theory that, well, even if you watch this Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson interview, you know what I mean? Like, they kind of made it seem like Israel had nuclear weapons and like all this stuff. And like the U.S. is already fighting in the war, which is like, what? What are you talking about, Senator Cruz? But what if Israel's secret nuclear program gets blown up and they say that Iran nuked them? And then here's what you do is you get the sympathy card, right? You go, hey, the U.S., you need to enter this war now. We just got nuked by Iran. So then, you know, the world is on stage looking at the U.S. going, what are you going to do, U.S.? You going to step in? And then 2, it clears up the evidence of any nuclear program that Israel's ever been involved with, right? So you're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. However, it would leave Israel defenseless because then they would get rid of all of their nukes.
Yeah. But that'd be a great reason why the US would come in now, because they're like they're defenseless, you know. They're being made to look like the martyr. Like they're just kind of like I don't even want to say it. I have Jewish clients and I don't want to say it. Well, they don't watch the show, but I'm just kind of like, you know, the whole we're the chosen one and this or that, and
the chosen
everything's the chosen people and everything. And it's just like you cry in pain, but you're the one that's slapping everybody else all the time. And it's like, you know, woe is me. But I definitely can see that, Greg, where
well, and some would argue some would argue that they slapped themselves in order to get the sympathy card. I mean, if you look at October 7th, there's plenty of evidence that
they allowed it.
Points to like they set it up to be allowed. So that way the world attention pointed back to them saying, hey, look, we need this help, you guys.
Yeah. And they want the Gaza Strip to put in another canal, like the what's that canal that we always talk about?
The Suez.
Yeah. So again, it has to always do with, like you said, it's 2 birds, 1 stone. They have to have as much as they can with one thing. So with 9/11, they had, hey, we can get this, we can hide the trillions of dollars that went missing, we can start the Patriot Act. So it's always like, we're going to do this, and then there's the circle, the pie chart of what can be done. So if they blow that up, that's where they can rebuild. That's where they can be like, now it's just rubble. Let's put in our canal for our shipping, because they want the shipping.
Yeah. Because I mean, the famous site is what is it? The Dimona nuclear site in Israel. So if that gets blown up, I don't know if that's close to where this canal was supposedly wants to be built, but I was just thinking, like, what a better way to lure the U.S. in and cover up your tracks of any nuclear stuff than to either blow up your own shit or have Iran attack your nuclear site, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of going to have to be something, isn't it? Because these like large scale wars always start with some sort of like huge triggering event. Do you know what I mean? It's not like two countries go and then like America isn't just going to like quietly walk into a war which is going to start World War III. It's going to have to be like a big event that brings it in. That would make sense. Like getting rid of like the nuclear program would make sense. But Iran, I believe, was that the last like rogue state that was on the list of places that needed to get rid of?
I think so.
Yeah, General Wesley Clark and the 7 countries in 5 years. Yeah. Yeah. So we've gone through every single one of them except for Iran.
Yeah, it's awful. It's awful convenient.
I can't help but think that because again, I'm not convinced that nukes actually exist, and I hope I'm right by that. I really do. They just don't exist. But I do think direct energy weapons 100% exist.
Yeah, you can see them online. Yeah.
So if you did on a mass scale a direct energy attack, you could make that look like a nuclear weapon had gone off.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And they've been using it. They've been using it. I think they've been using it since 9/11, the Maui fires, the Californian fires,
maybe even volcanoes. Did you guys see the massive green laser that was right above the Indonesia volcano that just erupted? I mean, that happened years ago. What's that?
I haven't seen the laser above it. Is that a thing?
So there was it was back in 2021 is when the picture was taken. But there was this massive green laser right into, it looks like it was pointed right into the center of this volcano in Indonesia. I forget what the name of the mountain's called. I probably couldn't even pronounce it, but it just blew up.
The UFO community thought it was taking samples.
Right.
There you go. Yeah. So either that or was maybe testing out, hey, can we get this thing to blow?
Yeah, for sure.
See, the part of me always wonders whether when you take the things that have happened over the past few years, like COVID, the Maui fires, the like 9/11 stuff, I've often wondered whether parts of those, if you stick all the elements of those together, right? So the media control of COVID and the mass surveillance and seeing what large groups of people would do in panic. If you take the like the attack on a major city, and if we take it as all this is like fucking bunk, the attack on a major city and the faking of videos of planes going in and stuff like that, and then like Maui fires and directed energy weapons being a test of the of weaponry capabilities.
Yeah.
In my head, you could make a case that all those are individual beta tests for a Project Bluebeam.
Yeah,
you put all that together, and you've got yourself a Project Bluebeam.
Yep.
All right. You know, and like,
because they won't let anything go to waste. So that's a great way of testing stuff out, seeing how well they can run the Mockingbird, their PSYOP. And I think every day is just a PSYOP on top of a PSYOP on top of a PSYOP. And I think AI right now is being pushed. One side of it's being pushed because you'll have people say, well, that's AI and it's not real. So the bad guys will get away saying, no, that's AI.
Right.
Especially with maybe some of the kids stuff. Well, that's AI. That's not me. That's a face swap. But AI could also be used to see if, hey, was that plane that hit the World Trade Center real? So if there's still any good guys out there, maybe the AI is being used to prove that they use holograms and stuff, and on the other side, they're not going to allow anything go to waste. And basically, it'd be very hard now to say what's real because they're going to be like, no, that's AI.
Well, yeah, and it depends on who programs the AI. And like, you know, if you ask X about any conspiracy theory, you have to ask it in unhinged mode. If you do that, then it'll actually give you some truth.
Is that what it's called? Unhinged mode?
Unhinged mode. So I just realized that the other day, and I just don't know, because eventually you're going to get to the point where AI will create its own apps. AI will consist of its own self. You know what I mean? It won't need individuals to input.
Greg, when you go to click that button, that's when they surveil you. That's where they're like, we want to know how many people are clicking the unhinged and typing in shit. So you're on the list, buddy.
Yeah, you say, Grok,
Grok,
give me this answer in the unhinged mode, and it will spout off some conspiracies like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The AI restrictions in your bill,
right?
That's crazy.
Well, and the fact that Donald Trump has been pushing it, and none of his supporters seem to be fazed by that at all. Like
they're not fazed by shit. Like it's an absolute cult now. It's just
they've never seen Terminator.
No.
Clearly,
they've never seen it.
What I found fucking crazy over the past few weeks was when you guys had the civil guard deployed because of the alley riots, and all the conspiracy theorists were going, "Yeah, this is fine. There's nothing sinister about the civil guard being deployed against American citizens whatsoever." Can you imagine what would have happened if that would have been Joe Biden's administration that had done that?
Right. Yeah, you know, I used to be one of those, and that's part of the Q trap too. Is like,
no, there's still part of me. There's that little grain of hope that still holds on to the fucking conspiracy, fucking hope porn. But I think that's all it was hope porn.
Well, yeah, and like, you know, this deal with Iran. So it has been said that Donald Trump said that he was going to either pull the trigger or not with getting into war with Iran officially within the next 48 hours.
So by tomorrow.
Right, by this Friday. But then comes out today, you know, you have Levitt, the speaker, right? Mm-hmm. She said that he's postponed that to 2 weeks. So he's giving them 2 weeks. And that aligns with a Q post that if you look at the Delta, so today's date, it says free Iran, all this stuff, right? Like we stand, fight, all this stuff, right?
That's wild.
Right. And so like you have this kind of, I personally think the Donnie Darkin theory, where the Q stuff will come true to even embolden Donald Trump's QAnon base even more and give him like this almost God complex to these people to say like, he is our savior. He's the savior of the world. Without him, none of this would have, like, we would have, could you imagine where we would be? Like, we would have been in nuclear war and all that stuff, because there's a lot of, you know, is Trump good guy or is he bad guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing that, and I'm, you know, I get this a lot, like nothing that anybody says about Trump could make me think that he's a good guy, right? Mm-hmm. There's that kind of theory. And I'm like, well, not so much. Because if he avoids war with Iran and he turns his back on Israel, I think that's a start.
Releases the Epstein files.
Well, not even that. Like, tell me who Epstein's working for, bro. And then also tell me what's going on in the pokey medicine.
That's the big one too. Like none of that has been none of that's been addressed. And I mean, like the stuff that's just happened in the last 5 years. When you can wake up people to that and explain and really say, look, this is what happened, then you can go back to school shootings, 9/11, like whether you landed on the moon or not. But going back to Q, one of our followers posted something to us, Greg Whitney. Did you see where I said this makes sense about that Q could be a Israeli psyop, and that's why a lot of it was on 4chan? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was thinking that the entire time as well. Like, you know, it's all biblical prophecy, right? God wins. If you look at the dark to light, very Freemasonic, but it's also very biblical. And throughout all the Q posts, it says it's going to be biblical. It's going to be biblical. And so that brings in who? The ultra religious right.
Right.
And so you have a large part of Trump's base is evangelical. And so they fall hook, line, and sinker into this idea that, Jerusalem has to get their false god first, because it's like the order of operations. You're going to have like the end times will happen when Israel gets their false god or false Christ, kind of antichrist figure. And then they will fall and God will punish them. And Israelis will then realize that Jesus Christ is the Messiah after all, right? And it's just like, I think that they're using the Bible as a playbook to manipulate everybody.
Yeah.
And I feel like you have hardcore Christians looking at this going, holy shit, the end times are here, and they're falling for it and they're going, whoa, 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 whoa. But it's like, it's so easy to manufacture. You can have a man do something in the linear fashion of the Bible, and people will say, well, it was God who made the man do that. It's like, well,
the illusion of prophecy.
Right. You know what I mean?
It's so easy to use religion as a psyop. That's one of the biggest ones, right? Like, really, you have people that are so, what's the word? Dedicated, not dedicated, but
devoted.
Devoted. Thank you, Greg. Where it's like, man, that's the easiest psyop to pull on people that never ends. Some of these psyops, they kind of come to an end and then something starts. That's something that's been going for centuries.
Right. Well, and that is one of the biggest rug pulls that I've heard is going to happen on Christians, or to Christians, I should say. It's like they're kind of purposely manufacturing this end times prophecy. And when Jesus Christ does not return, you're going to have a bunch of Christians in a blunder saying, what's going on? Why weren't we raptured? Where's the second coming and all this stuff? And that's where this introduction of aliens, the introduction of a new religion will all come at once. And you'll have even the Vatican and the Pope realigning and saying, hey, we were lied to. And this is all just speculation and theory.
Yep.
But it's like,
but 100% coming true, though, Greg.
Yeah,
you never know. You never know,
because that ushers in the one world religion, right?
Right.
You can't believe that anymore. It's a rebrand. Greg and I talk about this all the time. Everything's being rebranded.
But not only that, but the gods will be here on Earth. You could see them, and those would be the aliens, and it would be either like the Anunnaki that they would say are from the Bible, or it's literally just aliens. You know what I mean? Like. There's a belief that there's different races of aliens, right? Some are sent to help us, some are sent to kill us and enslave us and whatnot, right? And so that's where this whole, new paradigm of conspiracy comes in. And it's like this theology, because Q is very religious. Like, there's a lot of history with the Q posts, God. Not a lot about Jesus Christ in the Q posts, mind you. Maybe once or twice Jesus's name was mentioned in a prayer or something.
Leaning a little bit more Orthodox Jewish a little bit, you think?
Or who knows, right? Like, there's phrases in the Bible, right? So there's verses from the Bible that are in the Q posts, and so you can take that however you want to read that. But like, I think that when you look at the direction of AI, you look at the direction of transhumanism, you look at the direction overall of religion in itself, and why 2030? Why is this date so freaking important? Because everything seems so sped up right now. It's like, we got to throw it all out there. We're exposed right now. We were slow playing everybody, but like, then we just threw out this fake, virus thing and got everybody excited. And then everybody started waking up, quote unquote, saying like, this isn't right. They're lying to us. And it's like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's either the pandemic went like horribly awry and it just didn't go to plan at all. Because there is a big part of me that believes we were never supposed to get out of lockdown. That they had us They were there. They were going to put the QR codes on everything. You had enough people on board that I think you could have got away with it. And everybody else, as long as you could have kept those payments coming, for people that so they were getting what would become universal basic income if it would have carried on going. And people could order stuff off Amazon, and then you took the leads off a little bit so people could kind of meet a little bit, but then only for a couple of hours a day.
Right.
I think they'd have got away with it if they'd just doubled down on it.
Well, I think it was a beta test, man, for universal basic income and the rise of AI and everybody not having a job here soon.
For a lot of things, they wanted to crash the economy.
Yes.
They wanted to surveillance and whatever with tracking. They wanted to test and see how far people would go. And I kind of disagree a little bit on what you were just saying there, Lee, because I was thinking about, and I saw some articles where people were saying between 18 to 24 months is when people's patience are done with. And that's kind of like when they lifted the lockdowns. And I feel that's why we have some of our followers
up to the line.
Yeah, up to the line to get what they want. And I also was like, well, why did they wake up people? Because that just caused more division, So now there was division on, was it a pandemic or plandemic? Was this or that? Yep. And I think after about 18 to 24 months is when the patience is ended. And I've had some people in our private group chats, and we've chatted being like, that's why Trump came out with the what, so the lockdowns wouldn't go on forever. And I'm just kind of like, it's a little convenient. But
well, the only evidence that they have that we would go into like this 10-year lockdown. I mean, even your dog is agreeing.
Well, hey, I'm in the middle of a show here.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, don't hit any buttons. Hello.
Okay. Well, there we go.
Hi. I'm dog sitting. Okay. Yes.
Well, so yeah, sorry. It's gonna be hard to concentrate with.
No, I'm gonna put her in her crate.
No, I'm kidding.
Give me a second.
We could just say for the podcast, that Flex just every so often, he just growls.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. That's Flex does that. He just has the syndrome. But
sorry, Greg. I was just going to say, I don't know if you meant this before, but it just popped in my head when you were saying about the lockdowns.
Mm-hmm.
What a perfect thing to do. So, let's regardless of whether the vaccine was like a depop thing or whatever,
right?
But by putting everybody in the houses, what was the first thing we did? We said, right, okay, key workers, maintenance people, construction people, they can go back to work. The stuff like that. Everyone else stay in. If you did want to thin the herd, what you're doing by putting people back out is you're working out exactly how many people you need to keep the wheels moving.
Right. Yeah, it's a test run for.
I never thought of that. I'd never thought of the fact that you lock up 80% of people for a year, and you go, well, we don't need 80% of people, do we?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
There's your proof, right? And it's like, oh, okay, well, here's how many robots we need to build. That's what you just figured out.
And they had snitch lines. They had people snitching on people.
Yeah, division is what.
Division. It was just and none of that's been really answered.
Right.
I'd actually prefer that before Epstein and anything else. Is let's talk about the last 5 years because we're still in it.
Yeah.
It still has it's ruined families and friends and the education system and kids with their learning. And that's why I moved from Toronto to here, because I'm like, hey, I remember how you guys treated me. You're telling me I'm killing grandma because I didn't take what? Grandma's gonna die anyway, so why would I kill myself first?
Well,
grandma's on her way out.
And not only that, but going back to the whole lockdown, I don't think that there was any evidence that we would have put up with a 10-year lockdown. And, I heard X22 and these Q accounts saying the New York Post said that it takes 10 years to create a vaccine. I'm like, yeah, but what's to say we would have needed to stay locked down until a vaccine came out, right? Because the George Floyd's riots happened well before the vaccine came out, and everybody was out there, doing whatever they wanted, right? Without masks and all that. So like my thing is, you know, the vaccine prevented a 10-year lockdown. I think that's bunk. I think that's been debunked by like this, you know, even other studies like
there would have been civil unrest after 2.5-3 years,
and we were already seeing it. Like churches were opening and they were defying.
People were like, fuck it. Like they're just like, no. So, you know, 5 years would have been pushing it. They had their 18 to 24 months, which was enough to put their foot on our throats. And some woke up, some didn't.
But to your point, though, to test how far people would go, because they wanted this stuff in your body for some reason, right? And it wasn't because it worked the way that it was intended to work. It wasn't like everything that they said. I mean, my favorite collage of it was Fauci over the many years saying this is 100 or 99.9% effective. And then it goes down to 97% effective. And then it goes down to 90. Then it goes down to 80. Then it goes down to freaking 50.
And you need a booster to make the vaccine more effective, which never in our timeline or lifetime did that happen. And you can't make a vaccine if you can't isolate the virus. You can't isolate a SARS virus. So people just were like, because they used the tagline, trust the science. You know, and I feel a lot of people that did trust it and feel duped, their egos are still too big to be like, we were duped. They just, and the longer it goes, the more people are going to be like, well, what do you want me to do? I took the thing 6-7 years ago. So I think the longer it goes, they forget.
It avoids guilt. It avoids guilt. Like if you gave that to your son or your daughter,
I had a wild thought of the because we get speaking about the vaccines quite often, but
it's almost like there's some sort of conspiracy.
You brought up the other night that, you know, you live on an island, Lee, of 80,000 people, and the plan to kill people, you don't think that's the plan because
unfortunately,
someone died today.
I said this yesterday on the podcast that being in such a small place, like, so it's, you know, I can't walk around very much without seeing people I know and like lots of people I know, because there's so many people. It's like it's 15 miles across, like the Isle of Man, and you know there's 80,000 people here. It's really small and dense, and the fact that I thought, well, I don't know loads of people. I know some people that have died, but obviously I'm like 43 now. I'm gonna know people that are gonna die. I'm gonna get to that age where I know people that are older than me, and then that's gonna happen. However, I heard about someone today who's this person has had like a reasonably awkward day, because not only did they find out their partner was like cheating on them, 3 members of their family had heart attacks.
Fuck a dick.
Yeah.
Wow.
Heart attacks.
I've not heard of people like, you say, oh, my uncle had a heart attack, my mother had a heart attack, my father, my grandfather, whatever it is. But when you say, no, 3 people in my heart had a heart attack today, I'm just going up to the hospital.
That's horrible.
That's fucking a lot.
Yeah. I had 2 friends, just a month ago, within a day apart. Because remember I was telling Greg about this. Both were between ages 50 to 53. Both have taken it. I know, because they work for the city of Toronto and they had to take it. One had a heart attack, survived. The other one just dropped. The other one, who was in better shape, dropped dead and died.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought with it was, maybe it's not. It's probably, it will kill some people, but maybe that's not the big plan. And going back to the Georgia Guidestones that have gone now, what if the big plan is for the people who have children, there's something that's being passed down to those children? So in
we
20
know it
years'
changes
time,
DNA. Like, we know it changes DNA.
Yeah, but 20 years' time, what's that film, Children of Men? Is it with where nobody is, pretty much everybody's infertile?
Yeah, and actually, you're seeing some signs of that in children who have taken it. You know, like there's questions of, will it kill off certain like sperm cells or egg cells, and can they actually even have kids after they take this stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen much evidence of that come out, you know, in initial phases. Yes.
We won't though.
But my thing is, you know, when you look at like big pharma, they don't want people dead. They want people sick.
Yeah.
Because a dead person is not a customer. A sick person is a customer.
Yeah.
So you want to have the population sick, withering, unable to fight wars, right? Most of the young men who took this, I mean, they had to put a warning on the medication now saying it'll cause, you know, heart problems.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, you know, if you have a heart problem and you're a young man, you can't go fight in a war.
Yeah.
And
true, but what if in 20 years' time somebody can't have a child, but there is a way that they can have a child. They're going to pay for that.
Well,
yeah, via AI or some sort of upgrade.
Like, look at birth rates in the UK. So when I was a kid, like there was a TV show. It was like a sitcom, British sitcom called 2.4 Children. And the reason it was called 2.4 Children is that was the average amount of children for a household. Like if you broke everything down, each couple had the average of 2.4 children. The UK's birth rate, or indigenous population of UK's birth rate now, is I believe 1.2. So in my lifetime, we've lost 1.25 of child per family, because we're approaching like under replacement rate.
Yeah,
that's fucking crazy.
And that number was probably before the COVID vaccine. So now with the COVID vaccine out, and Greg was saying, we don't have the data. We have the data on the heart stuff now because it's here, but we're not going to know. Like, these kids aren't having sex now. It's going to be 15, 20 years when they try to start the family. So in 15, 20 years, you know, I'll be 70 and the rest of you will probably be 40. I don't know how old you guys are, but in 15 to 20 years, we're going to start hearing how kids are having trouble. And are they going to connect the dots? Probably not, because so much time has passed.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like this ticking time bomb where, I mean, it escapes all plausibility of leading it back to, you know, the origin. And so I just don't know.
You guys must know the Latin thing, mustn't you? I only found this out the other day, though. That if you AstraZeneca thing.
Yeah.
So if you split the word AstraZeneca up, I think is Astra. Is it Zeneca?
Yeah.
Yeah. And translate that
something about the heart.
Into English from Latin. No, it translates from English to Latin as a road to death.
Road to death.
Hey, Snopes. I just checked Snopes and they said that's false.
Bastards!
You've been fooled, Lee.
I have.
See, so Snopes says that's a lie. So
what does it mean?
It's not sad, actually. It's not sad. It's good if it's a lie. I'm just sad I've been duped.
Right. Well, even like pharmakia, you know, is like it goes back to like witchcraft and all that shit or something like that. But there's just some weird stuff that when you look at medicine, you know, it's almost like magic. You know, it can be used for good or for bad. And I think that a lot of people can fall into the trap of, you know, I always trust my doctor. I always blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of family members that are like, hey, you're not a doctor. I trust what my doctor says, and my doctor says to go get this thing. So I'm going to go get this thing.
Yeah.
Well, the snake oil salesman turned into the pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah.
Right. Well, even like, you know, Rockefeller, Rothschilds, I don't know if there was big pharma ties there. I thought that there was. Honestly, I haven't like done a deep dive on those families in a long time. So a lot of this,
me neither. I just pulled out my ass.
Right. Yeah. And you know, when it goes back to Trump, and he was kind of like, he considered himself like the father of the vaccine. And, you know, he always says that the media is the enemy of the people and that they hate you and all this stuff. He always points at the fake news during his rallies, right? Oh, they're going to shut off their cameras. Yet he's done nothing to really address the issue. No. And like people say, well, what's he going to do? He can't really like shut them down. That would be like a dictator or something, right? It would be obvious. But there is something called the Smith-Mundt Act that was overturned by Obama back in like 2011 that in a roundabout way allows the media to propagandize its own citizens. And so it's like, why has Trump not done anything about that at least? You know what I mean? Just address it.
He doesn't even say fake news media anymore. The Trump that we saw in his first term is not the same Trump. Like he is not this, I'm being hunted, now I'm the hunter. It's a different, maybe it could be a different dude, you know, in actual essence, in clone. But I mean, just his
Flex is all about the clones.
And I always think every Hollywood person that's female is male, but you'll see it is. Like I said, that's for another day. But he's not the same dude in the way he addresses things now, where I feel he's more controlled now. Where before he was trying to be more controlling and saying fake news media and Obama this and Hillary that, and now it's kind of like, you know, Israel, yes, AI, yes, let's have Musk in here, and Musk is calling him a pedo on tweets and stuff like that. And I don't think that made up.
Like, that is my biggest worry with Trump is like, yes, he could take down Israel. He could do all these good things. He could end the war. He could like come out about election fraud. He could maybe come out about the COVID stuff, but I don't think he's ever going to go out there with that because it would taint his reputation. But like the AI and his relationship with all of these bigwigs in the tech world who were at his inauguration, you know what I mean? And like this Project Stargate, his first week, like couple days into the job, he's working with Larry Ellison, who's like ex-CIA / CIA still, who's on camera saying, we're going to have AI like watching everybody. Citizens will be on their best behavior because they're being tracked and recorded at all times. Police officers. And you know what I mean?
Wasn't that part of the beautiful bill as well? That would allow AI governance in certain states. Or in states.
And I mean, just the big, beautiful bill in general is an omnibus bill, which is a bunch of topics squished into a massive bill, like 400, 500 pages long, where
with tax cuts on the top. So that's all people talk about.
A lot of stuff is hidden in there, right?
Yeah.
And Trump and his base have been complaining about these things forever. And now when Trump is saying, hey, this is a big, beautiful bill, go vote for it, this thing's awesome. Now you have like these MAGA accounts pushing for this big, beautiful bill. And I'm like, didn't we say we hated omnibus bills?
Yeah.
Because you can hide.
Why pick the three letters like Build Back Better?
Yeah, BBB.
Big BBB, a small B. Shit. A lowercase b looks like a 666. It's like fuck for sake.
Well,
it's just rebranded. It's rebranded.
And gematria, a B is the number 2, right? Because it's the second letter in the alphabet, and so it's 222. And if you remember, like 2022 is when Russia, I think, invaded Ukraine. Or it's right around there. It was like there was a decision made that that's what's going to happen. And that's also when the Pluto return happened in America. And so like on these astrology birth charts, where a planet is when you are born is the position of your birth, right? And so the planet goes through this rotation, and when it comes back to that exact spot where it was when you were born, that's called a Pluto return. So the Pluto return happened when Rome was birthed. It happened when Rome fell. It happened when the United States was birthed. And so we just had our first Pluto return since the Declaration of Independence. That was on 2/22/2022, right?
Wow.
And so like there's all of these signs that are saying this is planned via an astrological clock. And they all know what's going to happen because it's all freaking written in the stars.
Yep.
Something, you know what I mean? Like that whole phrase, billionaires study the stars, millionaires don't, or something like that.
Yeah.
So the Q stuff, nothing can stop what's coming. I think that's what they're talking about is like this big astrological whatever theater.
Well, I know you guys were speaking like about the whole Elon thing. You actually said what me and Lee said on a few shows ago, that this whole thing could be just orchestrated. You know, it could be arranged.
Oh,
almost.
The fight between them?
Yeah. But I did get thinking, do you remember the interview with Elon Musk when somebody asked him about a company, about AI, and Elon said there is one company, and then the host said, which company is it? And he just said there's one company to worry about when it comes to AI, and he wouldn't name the company. I don't know if he was implying Google or what, but I'm wondering if maybe he's a really good person and he wants humanity to thrive. I hope that's the case. What if the AI restriction is what he's really unhappy about?
Maybe. He's playing it off as like, Doge went in there and saved some money, but you want to spend trillions of dollars, Trump. So like, are you lying to me? All this stuff, right? But yeah, I think that Elon knows way more than what he's playing off.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like the number one contractor of the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
And like, just shockingly, to my surprise, he quits Doge, or he gets fired from Doge or whatever, right before he's supposed to like go in and audit the Pentagon.
But
never made it to the Pentagon.
Wouldn't he have had to have left anyway? Isn't there some sort of statute of like how long you can be?
Yeah, he was going to stay for 6 months. That was sort of like the plan for
Right.
him to stay for 6 months.
Was
And
it
I
under
think
6 months. Was it?
Yeah, I heard they were going to reevaluate, or he was just going to give it 6 months. It ended up
Right.
being 90 days. But from what something that I read recently was something in the big beautiful bill. It had something in there where Elon doesn't have the control of AI because there's another company maybe he's talking about, or a country that has there's competition there. And I think he was hoping he would have all that, and maybe I'd have to look it up. I remember seeing someone breaking it down, being like, this has to do with quite a few things, and it's not just they took away the EV mandate for Tesla. There was something with the AI that he wasn't happy about, meaning like, you promised me, and that's probably why he gave Trump that money. And he's like, you promised me the infrastructure or a patent on something with AI, and he wasn't getting it anymore. I think that was a big part of it, not just the EV mandates. Because nobody wants to buy his shit car anymore. Like, it's just, they just don't. People are setting them on fire. It's just like, why would you? So I think it has something to do with the AI.
I don't know. There is something going on between Musk and Trump, and I do think it's orchestrated. I don't think they really are mad at each other.
No.
And it happened as soon as this happened, like Elon Musk comes out with this black eye, and then he just flips the script and says like, Trump's, on the Epstein files, and he's like kind of talking shit about Trump. And so people are like, did he get abused into or threatened, saying, hey, you better do what you're going to do? And not only that, but if you look at the text messages that were exposed by Ashley St. Clair, one of his baby mamas, he was talking about assassination attempts on his own life. And he was saying, after Trump, I'm next in line, when it comes to assassination attempts. And so that's why she was not supposed to come out with this information, because she was supposed to keep the child, away from danger, away from disclosing that Elon Musk is the father, because people do some fucked up shit to kids, to get at you, kind of like mafiosa stuff. So I think and just a side note, all of Elon Musk's children were born in vitro or a surrogate. He never really penetrated the woman's vagina and had the child.
It's insane that I like,
because he's a robot.
So weird.
Robots can't have kids.
But going
Holy
back
shit, he's gonna get. Oh, I hope he doesn't. But can you imagine if he gets shot and it's just metal like Terminator?
Right. The red eye just starts glistening. You know what I mean?
What do you think of the false flag? The false flag being Trump taken out by Iran, because there's been stuff in the news with that lately.
If that was the case, I think there would be someone in there. Like, if you're going to replace Trump, like,
with Vance,
the agenda,
with Vance,
Vance doesn't seem to be the guy, does he? You would have someone that would be more obvious to be the takeover guy.
I mean, to the technocracy movement, then yeah, Vance would be the perfect shoe-in. I mean, who is JD Vance? JD Vance isn't really his full name anyway. He changed his last name,
which is odd.
But
really?
Yeah.
So his full name has been changed, and I think it was due to like a marriage breakup or something with his father leaving. I don't know, but nonetheless, like, where did he come from? Why did Trump choose him just out of the blue, seemingly, right?
And he was a no Trumper, right, Greg?
Right, he was a never Trumper, he was brought to power via Peter Thiel, right? And when you look at Peter Thiel, he runs Palantir. He's like the CEO of Palantir. And this is really gaining steam now. People are finally paying attention to Palantir because it's like Minority Report. It's like the three oracles that are predicting people creating or performing murder, committing the act of murder before they even do it. And you have certain cities within the United States using Palantir software right now, police departments, using it for red flag laws and pre-crime analysis. So they're using it to track and trace people's movements, their purchases, their online, communications and whatnot. And, that's what everybody was saying, like this No Kings riot that we just had, the largest orchestrated riot or protests, whatever you want to say, throughout the United States. People were saying that Palantir was going to be deployed because these protests would turn into riots and everybody's face will be out there for the world to see. But not to say the least, but Palantir not Palantir, but Peter Thiel was caught up in Jeffrey Epstein money. Like, one of his businesses was invested into Jeffrey Epstein's investment or like his portfolio or something. And it's still making money to this day. Like, he invested $40 million. Now it's up to like 170 million or something.
Epstein was so deep in with people, wasn't it? You don't have to scratch the surface to find like a trail that leads back to him.
And that's why it will never be released, because to do that, you're going to be exposing Israel, exposing Israel. That's pretty basically it, because they're the Mossad. Like, her dad was the Mossad. When he passed away, the Mossad was at his funeral.
Oh, you're talking about Ghislaine Maxwell's
dad. Yeah. And, nobody knew where his money came from. He was always being protected.
He was never recovered, was he? He died on a boat, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
Oh, Robert Maxwell?
Yeah.
He fell off a boat.
Conveniently.
I don't know if his body was ever recovered.
Been eaten by a shark, probably.
Or he went to live out the rest of his time on an island.
Some shark bait.
But
one of the things. Oh, sorry, go on, Greg.
Oh, well, like, the number one reason why the Epstein files will never be released is like they're still being used. It's blackmail. The blackmail is one of the most powerful tools that you have as a government, as an intelligence agency, to get people to do things for you, right?
Right.
And so why would you give up that power? You know what I mean? Unless you had something else to replace it with.
The only thing I don't get with that is and I get the thinking behind it, but that would suggest that all of the Epstein evidence was like hard copied on Epstein Island or in Epstein's house, and it was all scooped up by the FBI and put in a safe somewhere. I don't think it would be like that. I think the US will have just everything that the Mossad and then whatever Mossad decided to sell to different countries on different people. So I don't know how valuable blackmail is when two people can blackmail the same people. Because you're just in a stalemate there, aren't you? Right. You say do what we want to, and they're saying no, you do what we want to, or we'll put this out. And what do? You just stood stagnant in the middle.
It's a bit of a double dip.
What gets me about the Trump administration now is, though, with the Epstein files, the reason I stopped trusting any of it was okay, you can't put evidence out for whatever it is, whether you're protecting Trump, whether you're protecting other people, whatever that is. It's the fact that nobody has turned around and said, like, no, Kash Patel hasn't said in any interview, oh, look, we're not dealing with the Epstein files right now because we're investigating where the next island is. No one of prominence has said, now that Epstein Island's gone, is there another island? And there has to be another island because that's how business works. If there's a hole in the market, it will be filled by something.
I heard there's worse islands. Like Epstein was just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's Diddy Island too. I mean, apparently, Sean Diddy Combs had his own island. Hasn't really.
He might get pardoned though, Greg.
Right. And I mean, Trump was just caught on camera, not really caught on camera, but he was having, an interview. Somebody from Fox News asked him, are you going to pardon Diddy Combs? Right. And he's just went on like this 2-minute diatribe around like, he was always a good guy, a fan of mine, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. And it was like, okay, so you might? I don't know. You didn't say no. You didn't say yes.
That should be a hard no. Which is what I said on the show.
Or just say that's not my job. Like leave it up to the judge,
Yeah, he's like, it depends how he's being treated. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like
Right.
that was just before the clip of me ranting that I clipped for you. Because I was like, what is he talking about here? Like,
right,
word salad. Shut the fuck up. Just be like, no comment. It's not my position to say anything. And stop talking, Grandpa. That's
right.
it.
Well, I mean, Alex Acosta kind of blew the lid on the whole Epstein thing because he admitted the reason why he let him go back in 2008 was that he was, quote, above his pay grade.
Right.
Right. And he was an intelligence asset, meaning he worked for our intelligence, UK, Five Eyes, Israeli, who knows, maybe all of them. But like, to expose the Epstein files, you have to expose the operation, and the operation leads back to a boss. And it's like, well, who is the boss? Why is this an operation? Who is the operation for?
Like which government, which agency, and
Right.
then and only then will any of this be exposed. And at this point, I think they're going to use Diddy as a scapegoat. Here you go. Here you go,
Right.
Patriots. We did what you wanted. We're never going to find out who really is above Diddy. Clive.
But here's the main question, though. Like, why was Jeffrey Epstein even arrested in the first place? If we didn't want this information out, if we didn't even want to know who Jeffrey Epstein was, like no one knew who he was before 2019, 2018, wherever he was arrested.
So you mean the second time he was arrested?
Right.
Because it was easy to come up with a story that he killed himself and just either get rid of him because they're worried or give him a new identity. And the only way to do that was to be like, oh, we arrested him.
But why even bring him in the first place and then create this gigantic conspiracy? I mean, the cameras were off. The hyoid bone was broken, indicating like he was choked.
But that's why, because now you have people that in the past, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, saying something completely different now. And that couldn't happen unless you have that story of we arrested him, we brought him in, the cameras are off, the guards weren't really sleeping, maybe not paying attention. So it's thrown in more. It's more of a clusterfuck.
It's to divide people and confuse them, right?
Divide people now.
I mean, that's the thing with the idea of the Q stuff, isn't it? There's nothing saying maybe the Q stuff's real and it's just not a good plan. Do you know what I mean? Like it's maybe it is what's the thing? Revelation of the method. So
that's what I argue as well.
Everything we're doing is going to harm you, and you're going to cheer it on.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, when you read the Q posts, you don't really get that, like in connotate or whatever. You don't feel like this is like a bad thing.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I don't know if they're saying like when they say these people are stupid, are they talking about you? I don't know. Who are these people? And like, trust the plan. If you look at like the Russia propaganda project. I forget what it's called, but like they did Operation Trust back in the day, where they had like this secret, like, hey, there's a secret group infiltrating our government, and they're a group of good guys. They're going to, fix some stuff. It's like to a T, Operation Trust. Like that's what Q reminds me of. And so I'm like, how often are we going to have to move the goalposts to make this fit into the plan, And I'm just like, I'm sick of juggling around all of these like definitions and like excuses.
Talking in code. Like,
right.
I'm tired of the code talking.
Right.
When I was into Trump in 2020 and supported him, I'm like, he's talking in code, trying to decipher that. So yeah, when they're like, these people are stupid, it could be pointing right at us and saying, you fell for this. It gives hopeism, which, there's still people in our group that I'm like, at what point do you end up like Greg and I, and maybe a majority of people now that are really saying, I don't trust any of this. Like, I think Trump's base is getting less and less, it has to be, because there's people just being like, dude, like, what are you doing? Why are you thinking about pardoning Diddy?
Well, and there's an occult aspect to Q as well, like the dark to light. You have to walk through the dark to get to the light. Studying and listening to numerous shows on occultism, Freemasonry, Thelema, there's a lot that ties into the Q posts where you're going, okay, we're talking about a chessboard. The black and white chessboard is commonly associated with Freemasonry, right? You look at the floors of every Freemason lodge, you'll see the black and white, and it's to represent duality, right? The dark and the light. And when you see like Donald Trump doing things like he just did, he planted 2 flagpoles at the White House. One is a north flagpole, the other is a south flagpole, north and south, like as above, so below type of thing. And then you also have, you find out that they are 88 feet tall. And if you know, Trump in gematria is 88 or something like that, or one of his names is 88. There's a lot of 88 tied into Back to the Future, Donald Trump being the Biff character in that.
Holy fuck, yes.
And there's a lot, like one of the last episodes that we did, it was a couple episodes back, Donnie Darkened on Twitter has this 5-minute video that we scrolled through. And there's so many like examples of either Donald Trump and 88.
Yep.
And Donnie Darkened or Donnie Darko, the movie 88. The tribute lights at Ground Zero after the September 11th attack, those have 88 lights. So it's an 88 light tribute. They're searchlights. There's 88 of them. So September 11th, you're bringing that back in. Donald Trump and 9/11, there's so much evidence that like he is the 9/11. He was the 45th president, and now he's the 47th. So 4 + 5 is 9. 4 + 7 is 11. 9/11. He couldn't be the 46th for a very specific reason.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot around 9/11 and the end times. I mean, if you look at Revelations 9/11, it talks about the creature from the bottomless pit, Apollyon, right? And tying that back into people equate Apollyon to Apollo. And Trump has numerous pictures of Apollo, the Greek god of the sun, in his apartment, in the Trump Tower and all this stuff, right? He was referred to as the Sun King when he stared up at the eclipse without the glasses on. It says Donald Trump, the Sun King, staring at, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just like, there's so much occultism around Donald Trump. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's Melania Trump. I don't know if there's some occultism in the Russian culture that she's bringing in and introduced to him. I mean, he's had numerous Russian wives, so maybe.
There's nothing strange, Greg. It's not like he's got an apartment made out of solid gold and a replica of the Ark of the Covenant. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he has a 100%, they say it's a replica of the Ark of the Covenant at Mar-a-Lago. And it's like, looking at Israel and his ties to Israel, right? Super Trump, the song that they created for him. They have Trump Heights. They put him on 2 different coins. They equate him to Osiris, or not Osiris, but King Cyrus.
What's his address? Is it 666?
Oh yeah. So Jared Kushner.
Yeah.
You know, Ivanka Trump's husband. He was adamant about purchasing 666 Fifth Avenue in New York.
Wild.
And at the time, it was the most expensive purchase in like New York history. And he bought it. He was like, I'm going to buy this. And he bought it. And then eventually he like sold it. But it's like, why did you have to do that? And why is there an inverted triangle of 6 trees by 6 trees by 6 trees on the Trump Tower? I don't know. Why is the Trump Tower look like a black cube? Who worships a black cube? Who puts a black cube on their forehead when they do worship? I mean, the Jewish,
the Jewish, Orthodox. Yeah.
Osiris. That's the Egyptian. Is that the what was depicted as a giant, and he was green as well, apparently.
Right. Yeah. So I said Osiris. I meant King Cyrus. King Cyrus actually helped the Jews rebuild their temple. So
I thought you meant the Egyptian Osiris.
Right. And I've equated Trump to Osiris as well. Because Osiris, so this was the Egyptian trilogy, kind of, not really trilogy, it was more like 4 gods, but that's like the main story in Egyptian theology is you have Osiris, Set, Isis, and Horus, right? Osiris is the king. He represents the foundation of the pyramid. So when you look at the back of a dollar bill, you see a pyramid with the top cut off.
Mm-hmm.
That is Osiris. The top with the eye is Horus, hence the Eye of Horus. And so Osiris represents the foundation of culture, and you know it's rooted, but it's old, so it's decaying, but it's also it's where people go to build off of, right? And so Trump represented that, and he didn't see. So in the Egyptian myth, Osiris is killed by his brother Set, who represents Satan, right? And we talked about this on the last time I was on the show too, so this might be a little redundant, but it's a fascinating story. It's one of my favorite stories. It actually mimics the Lion King. So Mufasa is an equivalent of Osiris. Mufasa is killed by his brother Scar, who is Set, and Scar has a scar right over his eye, right? So Set kills Osiris, chops him up into 14 pieces. Osiris has to be put together by his wife, sister, Isis. And if you think about Isis, where have I heard that before? You're like, oh, that's the terrorist group that has been allowed to flourish and cause chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And Isis is a god of chaos. So she comes up from the underworld, causes chaos on the earth, builds a monolith, an obelisk, sits on it, and creates. She found all of the pieces of Osiris except for one. So she found 13 pieces. And 13 pieces is significant to the United States. There were 13 original colonies. If you look at the back of the dollar bill, there's 13 arrows that the bird's holding. There's 13 olive branches. There's 13, 13, 13. To that original pyramid that has the top cut off, there's 13 layers of bricks. 13 is a big number. It's also Taylor Swift's favorite, a number that she has her mom right on her hand.
Of course it is.
So there you go.
So she found all the pieces apart from one.
Yes.
I hope it wasn't the penis.
Yeah, and so she couldn't find the penis, right? And so she built a penis, aka the obelisk. And so when you see like the Washington Monument, you see an obelisk over in the UK, you see an obelisk over in Rome.
Statue of Liberty, the torch, they say it could be the penis as well. Have you heard that?
I haven't heard that. But I'm just saying the monolith theory, you know, like back in 2019, right before COVID sparked off, you had all of these monoliths all over the world, right? So that was a call for ISIS. It's like, hey, that we have to bring the chaos because we have to rebirth Horus. Because what happened? Oops, hold on a second here. I don't know why this started playing. So anyway, ISIS she finds the 13 pieces of Osiris. She creates the phallus out of this obelisk. She sits on it, and she becomes pregnant with Horus. And Horus he has eyes like a falcon. He can see everywhere. He is the newly created version of Osiris. He can see, he has vision. He goes and attacks Set for killing his father Osiris, right? During that battle, he loses his eye. And that's where you get the Eye of Horus. And so he revenges his father. He kills Set. He goes back down to the underworld, and he finds Osiris, and he gives him the eye to give him vision. And then they together rise back up and rule again as a complete unity. You have the base of the pyramid and the eye above the pyramid. So it represents knowledge. It represents foresight. And, it's one of those myths that has been ingrained in our society. Tom Horn said that during the inauguration of every U.S. president, you have the raising of Osiris ritual performed at the Herodome, which is also known as the House of the Temple over in Washington, D.C. It's like the Freemasonic headquarters. And in the ritual room, you have a black cube. And on the black cube, you have the Bible, the Quran, and I believe the Talmud. So you have all of the three major Abrahamic religions books on this black cube looking up at a 6x6 magic square. And a magic square is something that it's like a talisman. It can create something. It's like a meme. So back before they had memes, they used magic squares. And what a magic square is, if you add up each row, each column, and each diagonal, it'll all equal the same number. And with a 6x6 magic square, each row, column, and diagonal will all add up to 111. And like just coincidentally, the guy who survived that flight 717, he was in 11A. A equals 1 in gematria, right? So it was 111. So I just thought that was interesting coordination there. So they perform this ritual in hopes that the spirit of Osiris will be raised into the U.S. president when he becomes inaugurated. And now, where did Donald Trump get inaugurated this time? He wasn't outside like everybody always is. He moved it into the belly of the dome, right? So like in the, I forget what it's called, like the Washington Capitol, right? Inside of the Capitol Dome, where you have the apotheosis of George Washington on the ceiling, where it's literally George Washington becoming a god. The painting of the picture is called Apotheosis of George Washington. He's surrounded by all the old Greek gods, Roman gods, no Jesus Christ. But Donald Trump was right below that being sworn in. So it's very significant to me when I see stuff like this. I'm like, this was purposeful. He came here right below George Washington, kind of like invoking something here. There's some sort of energy that he's trying to get. And then again, if this ritual, like Tom Horn was saying, is happening over at the House of the Temple, you have this raising of the Osiris ritual. You have Donald Trump below the original Osiris of America, George Washington. Like, you got some weird stuff going on. And I don't know even if that ritual even exists. Like, that's just Tom Horn's word for it. Other than that, I can't find anything that ritual actually occurs. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, that's strange. You know what I mean?
There wasn't a lot of ritual stuff in his first inauguration. You know, it's like the second one you had, like Greg was saying, he was in this dome. His wife was wearing a hat that looked like Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't put his hand on the Bible.
He did not.
And the first inauguration, he had the military come down and stand behind him when he says, we're going to give it back to the people. And that was all the Q people saying, see what I mean? It's under military. This one was much darker, much different than the six. That's why I feel like there's something different about him. Not necessarily the person, his agenda. You know, maybe it was scripted in that way that, well, we know it was scripted. He knows, and we all know, that they allowed Biden to be in for 4 years to give him that 9/11 number you were saying about, Greg, to destroy the U.S. There's a lot of things there, and then come back in, get shot, and then become a martyr. Get the movement growing even more, but it's not the same dude.
Well, not only that, but there's an element of will. So whoever these magicians are, they want you to want them. You know that song, "I Want You to Want Me"? It's literally that. Like, you can't just ask somebody to do it, and like, you can't force it upon anybody. That's why all of like these electronics, these agreements that you're clicking, yes, I agree you to track me, do whatever you want with my data. It's will. You are allowing that to willfully happen to you. And there's an element there where somehow that is more powerful than anything, because you said it was okay. You voted for me. You let me in. And so like when you're casting your vote, you're casting the spell and you're willing this person to take over, right? And that's how they see it. At least that's what it looks like to me. I could be dead wrong on that. But like Flex is right. This one was different. Like the first Donald Trump talked about the economy being a bubble and like inflation going through the roof. And these people are taking advantage of you through tax loopholes. And he's talking about all this other stuff that we're like, yeah, he's right. We got to fix this stuff. This time, all he's doing is fixing what Joe Biden did in the 4 years that we all know was like a big, like, you did this on purpose, right? Like the transgender stuff, boys playing in girls' sports, fixing the border wall, all of the people that came into this country that we don't even know which countries they came from. Our intelligence agencies are now saying that they're Iranian sleeper cells, but they could be Israeli sleeper cells too. Yeah. So we don't know that.
And by him
going to get that.
Yeah.
So he's just going to say, if you have that open door, then you're always going to have like sleeper cells.
Right. And so if you think about,
makes sense.
Yeah, this is a large plan of where we're at right now, and you need that sleeper cell agenda down the road. How do you get there? You got to work yourself backwards and be like, well, we have to leave the border open. That's why Trump never completed it in his first term. He left it open on purpose to allow Joe Biden to let in all these people so he could use that as a selling point for his next candidacy, right?
Still hasn't closed it up now,
Right. I mean, there's not a lot of people coming over from what I understand now, but
I mean, the entire West has had an immigration problem. That's no accident. Do you know what I mean? That everywhere, the UK, Europe, the US, there's a plan there to destabilize the indigenous populations of these countries.
I will say this. One, boys, I really hope you're just a bunch of crazy conspiracy theorists, because that freaks me out. But we've got, I think I heard you guys say in your podcast, you've got quite a lot of Trump supporters. We've got a lot of Trump supporters on our podcast. But and the message is, I think you need to start looking at your heroes and thinking, maybe they're not all they're cracked up to be. I hope you're wrong.
I hope so too.
I really do. I really do, because that is some scary shit.
Yeah.
You've just had me looking at the Joe Rogan interview to see which hashtag it was. It's 2219. I hope that doesn't mean anything, but like, yeah,
yeah, it's wild. One of those things. Yeah, where it's like, why is Donald Trump still alive if he's the massive deep state threat? If he is the only man standing in the way of the deep state, why is he still alive? I argue that maybe he does have blackmail on people, and there's a dead man switch, and he's willing to give up everything, right? Like, if you touch me, I got some blackmail on you, because he was raised in the New York real estate, where that's a tough lifestyle to grow up in and be successful in, when you're competing with, like, I'm assuming like some mafia members, you got some competing factions there. So how did he gain his power? His associations with Roy Cohn. If you watch Where Is My Roy Cohn, the documentary, powerful lawyer in New York. But he's also a very shady lawyer. He was homosexual and like had this weird obsession with frogs. And if you look at Kek, the meme, you know, Kek was the frog god, and you have like this incantation of like causing chaos through the memes and meme magic using Kek, this ancient whatever god, right? So it's just it's strange that you have all these things kind of line up around Donald Trump. And you know, was he allowed to become the president, or is he like surviving because his, you know, his defense or his like security is that good? You know what I mean? Like we all saw the attempt, right, on July 13th last year.
My dad is convinced that was like a drop, little nick on the ear, stand up. I'm like, Dad, no. But now I'm wondering.
My first of all, it's my birthday that day. But the so now like my birthday is the Trump assassination attempt. No one cares about Lee's birthday.
Yeah.
But your series, like we did the Golden Dawn stuff, and like I remember listening to that, and then as soon as that assassination attempt happened, and it was like the deathly head wound thing, I thought, oh fuck,
right.
That was pretty on the nail, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but you find out that there's like this, like kind of a Jewish prayer or some sort of prayer involving blood on the right thumb and on the right ear, and your shoes have to be off. And Trump's shoes were oddly off during this assassination attempt. He had to go grab his shoes. There were stories talking about his shoes, pictures of his shoes being.
I remember his shoes came off in the supposedly when he went down. But yeah, the Jewish prayer, I'd never heard that. It's crackers.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a Jewish prayer or I'll have to find it here. But yeah, that's, you know, it's like there's just so many. How many coincidences does it have to take? You know, it's just like the Q people, right? They say there are no coincidences, you know, and I like to say the same thing when I notice a trend in like Flex and I notice trends. They kind of just go against Donald Trump, but like it's the same motto, but you can't apply it to the same. I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, it's almost that it's the ego. You have the left whose ego is no, this is not happening, and now the same thing's happening, and now it's become the far right. Like the far right is the MAGA cult, where they don't want to see these coincidences. But they love it if it's on the other side. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's so much adding up on this side. Why don't you want to see it on this side? Right. That's because they have this infatuation, this whole putting people on fucking pedestals, you know.
Well, not only that, but I think it's like a fear thing. It's like if Donald Trump's not on our side, then we're fucked.
Well, we are. We technically are. You got to do your own thing. Like, honestly, we've been fucked for decades. Like, it doesn't matter what party is in power. For us, the Liberals just got voted back in. Everyone was like, it's been ruined. Canada was ruined the last 10 years, and you voted the same people in.
Mm-hmm.
The Conservatives, you know, were in power too at one point. Were things good then? No, things just keep getting worse and worse and worse because it's the same team. They're doing the same thing. They just play off each other. You got to do your own shit. You got to figure that might mean moving out of a big city. I just posted something yesterday saying, listen, if I could do it, you could do it. Get the fuck out. You know, stop being a slave to the system and living in a place you hate and stuff like that. And I go back to Toronto and everyone just is miserable and they can see I'm happy. And I'm like,
yeah, it's a mindset thing too, dude.
Nobody's fucking saving you. You got to save yourself, man.
I did find this information on the right ear, the thumb, and the big toe. So this holds significance in ritualistic importance in the Old Testament, and this is a purification ceremony. So this is called the consecration of priests. So the consecration of priests in the Old Testament involved a detailed ritual that included the application of blood to the right ear, the thumb, and the big toe. This ceremony is described in Exodus 29:20 and Leviticus 8:23 through 24. The ritual was part of an ordination of Aaron and his sons, marking their dedication to their priestly services. And the application of blood symbolized the sanctification and purification necessary for those who would serve the presence of God. Now, if you think about MAGA is like the highest level of priesthood in the Satanic Church. So it's like, who was he being ordained as a priest or consecrated as a priest using this blood of his right ear, the blood on the thumb? And like, you know, he could have been nicked on the ear, not by the bullet, because that photo that was taken by the cameraman who just happened to bring a high shutter speed, like the highest shutter speed camera ever, right at the right time and captured the bullet right behind Donald Trump's head. I refuse to believe that that's real. No. That story just sounds impossibly fake. And then like that same photographer was one who caught something else that was like ridiculous back in the, you know, like historically wise.
Yeah.
I don't remember it off the top of my head. But like maybe he did go down and maybe they did cut his ear, right? With a blade. And he used that blood and he put it on his big toe. I don't know. And he did this consecration of the priest ritual. I don't know. It just, it all kind of aligns, you know?
I mean, even like Rogan didn't go out and say like that it was staged. But, you know, there's been more than a handful of podcasts he's had now where the Trump interviews come up and he's gone, yeah, well, you know, that ear seemed to heal pretty quickly. And, you know, he hasn't gone any deeper in that. But, you know, if you're there, go, oh, yeah, that healed really quick. You know what the subtext is to what you're trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Well, and not only that, but, you know, people who support Trump, they'll say, well, you don't think that Donald Trump has access to medical care better than anybody in the world, like that we don't know about? And I'm like, but isn't that a conspiracy theory? It's like, now who's the conspiracy theorist? You know what I mean? Like you're creating this medical made up miracle thing.
And you'd still have a scar. You'd still have a scar.
And even if you have got like the best medical care, I mean, realistically, even without like secret medical stuff, the president of the United States elect is going to have the like as good a medical cover as you can possibly have. But that being said, he's still an old man.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what happens. The older you get, the fucking longer you take to heal. It's rubbish.
Well, and I heard that he was driven to the hospital but refused care at the hospital, and he waited for his White House doctor to get there. And he's the same White House doctor that said that there was a size of a penny, the diameter of a penny, chunk in his ear.
See, he refused care because at some point they would want to interview the person that cared for them and get a soundbite. And, you know, it's just it's very simple to stop the story at, hey, I didn't want to go to the hospital. Because then
people could assassinate him in the hospital, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and there's people going to be hey, let's get some information. Which nurse worked on him? You know, what did you think? Exactly. So, yeah.
It would make sense to me that like a person would like Trump would want his own medical staff there. That, you know, that makes sense. But again, the fact it does make sense could be just an awesome cover for something weird.
Well, and the fact that he's like completely seemingly shut down the investigation into it or has zero interest in it. I mean, that's all I would be talking about. It'd be like, hey, you guys remember they tried to kill me. You know, I'm almost not here because I was this close. And he even used it to say that he was he feels like he was saved by God to make America great again. That's what he said in his either victory speech or his RNC speech.
That's the guy behind you.
Right.
So that's the bit that I'm confused about. So, like, let's just say he is the, I don't know, like the Antichrist or whatever. Why would he name God? That's the bit that gets me.
God's an open-ended thing, though, isn't it?
I suppose, yeah.
Because it mocks him. They're mocking God.
Yeah. I mean, and the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was to prove that he did not exist. You know, that kind of thing where wolf in sheep's clothing, that type of thing.
That's why they sacrifice kids, because the greatest gift is kids that God has created, you know, the innocence and stuff like that. They mock it, you know, all these stars wearing their crosses. I'm like, you can't be wearing a cross and then you're on stage saying, I give thanks to Satan, and people laugh and joke because they use comedy. They use comedy to kind of camouflage what they're really saying. So they're mocking.
Right.
And it would be the perfect thing as well, wouldn't it? Because if you want to show like your devotion to chaos, then the fact that you're even willing to do that, where like a true believer in whatever religion that they are, you wouldn't get like somebody pretending to be another religion. It's such a disgrace, isn't it, to religion itself?
Yeah.
Where do you think this all leads to? Like, where do you see it in 5 years' time?
We're in Act 3, aren't we? It feels like we're going to see the end of the movie, no matter what happens.
I do think. I don't know if there's going to be a spin off of the Bible coming soon, because I feel like they're literally using the Bible end times to create what's going on right now.
2027.
Yeah, some sort of like comet is going to impact the Earth or something, right? You know, what's it called?
Apophis, is it?
Apophis, yeah, right. So I just think that this whole thing, you know, the Q post save Israel for last, it could mean two different things. Either Trump's going to turn his back on Israel and it's going to expose all of the lies that the Mossad has done to our country and the world, including our own intelligence agencies, of course. But like, I mean, you're talking about 9/11, you're talking about JFK assassination, you're talking about all of these different things that they could be tied into, right? So I don't know if that's going to happen. If that does happen, that's going to solidify the Q posts even more. Q followers will be validated, and then Trump's base would be that much stronger, right? It would galvanize sections of his base to come together, because you'd have there's parts of MAGA that doesn't like QAnon. They think that it makes the MAGA movement worse because it makes them look like a bunch of conspiracy theorists. I think those two factions will galvanize, because they'll be like, you were right, I know. And then they would come together and be like, yeah. Then maybe Trump sides with Israel, helps rebuild the third temple eventually. And then something has to happen there. Because like this whole Antichrist thing, I don't even know if he's trying to be that. I mean, it kind of seems like that with like the Donnie Darkin trend and stuff, but like he would have to blaspheme God and tell people to worship him. You know what I mean? So I don't know. There's definitely been people doing that for him, like equating him to Jesus Christ, basically making images of him on the cross like Jesus Christ, statues of him, kind of like idolatry. And so it's kind of like leaning that way, but not necessarily himself saying, you know, don't believe in God anymore, you know, believe in me. So
Holy shit, Elon's Judas.
There you go. He might be Judas.
I don't think there is an end game, because if there's an end game, either the world comes to an end or people rise up and take back their freedom. That won't happen. I think it's just perpetual, like it's been for decades. And they'll give us moments of hope. Oh, well, okay, they got rid of income tax. Great. But now you got to sign up for the digital dollar. I don't think there is an end game in the sense being like, it's just going to be chaos that just continues. It might be spread out a bit more. I think the chaos in the last 5 years is not spread out. I think I just said recently that the human brain is not equipped to take this much information, and that's why they're overloading stuff with us. So if people are like, do you think they're going to end the world? No, because the elites still want to rule. It would ruin their world too. I think it's just a continuous game that just keeps on going, where we're going to keep saying, I told you so, I told you so on both sides. And that's it. And you just pray, if you guys got kids, you just pray that, you know, they see through this shit and that they, you know, set themselves up for not failure, because we're set up for failure. We've been set up for failure for decades.
Well, I mean, because if you think about it, if the Revelation and like the Bible end times is going to happen, we're going to have a mark of the beast, right? That has to be part of the story. So maybe that's where Elon Musk comes in. You know, supposedly his nanny said that he was going to be the one that brings about the mark of the beast. I think that woman's full of shit. But
didn't she say it was like opening a portal or something
right.
in his bedroom?
Yeah, I think she's kind of kooky. I think she's just lying just to get clicks. But if you look at surveillance, you look at X, you look at Starlink, that's One World Internet. I think that he's definitely playing a part in the One World Order. I mean, he even tweeted out Novus Ordo Seclorum, the New World Order, or the New Order of the Ages, right? As soon as Donald Trump won. I don't know. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on. So I just don't know which way to take it. I'm just going along for the ride because I know I'm not going to change anything, and worrying about it is going to ruin my life. So I might as well just see what happens and talk about it. And then if people are interested, come over and check it out.
Yeah.
That seems like a good point to say. Where can people check you out?
Yeah. So Strange Sauna, we are on YouTube. We're on Rumble, primarily on audio as well. So you can find us on Apple. What is it now? Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Podcasts, all that stuff. Oh, and Instagram and Telegram. I'm very active on Telegram. Flex, you're on Telegram as well. And then you can always message us on Instagram. Yep. I don't know if everybody uses Telegram nowadays. So it's kind of like...
It's there if people want to use it. And I was just in there recently trying to spread some peace amongst our members, you know, because
a little blow up there.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like, hey,
was it over Trump?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, and I was just like, hey, like, no one's saving nobody here. You got to save yourself, and let's not get upset. And you know, poor Greg was kind of attacked on something, and I'm like we're just showing you what's coming out of their own mouths, and it's just but that's that division that's now happened within the MAGA cult thing, and Telegram allows us to chat about it a bit more without being shadow banned, or you know, like I said before we started, YouTube will take a comment off even if I spell F-U-C-K with a PH, it still figures it out. You know,
there you go.
It's just, it happens with everything now, though, doesn't it? Like there was a time where people could just have different ideas and you'd discuss and you go, nah, I think you're full of shit, and then you'd move on from it. But now, everyone attaches their identity to it.
Yeah.
There's a British comedian called Andrew Doyle who refers to it as the time before now, when people can actually have disagreements. I really like it.
And it's that cognitive dissonance. It's that ego where, I've always been a liberal, I'm going to vote liberal, even if it's just shit. And I'm just like, you're a human being, smarten up. You know, I think humanity and the way we've acted the last 5 years, I say to Greg all the time, we're not a superior beings. We can't be, because we can get fooled so easily.
Right.
We really can. It's just like, wow, man, you guys just don't. And I'm talking about anything, not just politics, just anything. It's just like,
well, and I like just to remind people, like, I don't know everything. Like, I'm just spitting out ideas. I don't think that what I say is absolutely what's going to happen. I just notice trends and I say, this is an interesting tie-in here. I'm noticing like a correlation, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, like, listeners, whoever you are, whoever, like, all, you know, everybody, no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what the real truth is. And so all we can do is throw ideas at the wall and see which ones stick. And, you know, if there's motion,
that's it.
Let's make it happen.
We don't know how we got here. We don't know how we leave, you know? So
exactly.
I think they need to remember that in the end, they're all conspiracy theorists.
There you go.
I say we're spoiler alertists. That's what our name is.
I like that.
There you go.
That's your shirt. Spoiler alertist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cheers. Thanks for joining us, guys. If you've got 2 hours into this podcast, then I suggest you leave a comment or a like or a share on whatever platform you're listening to us on. You can go over and join the Patreon if you want ad-free podcasts and early access to videos. We're on social media at the Daily Con Pod. You can find us there, and that's about it. So cheers for coming on, guys. I can't wait to speak to you again, and see you later.
Absolutely.
Thanks
for having us.
Shalom.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Why are you a conspiracy theorist? And I said, why isn't everybody a goddamn conspiracy theorist?
This is the real research. Literally have an alien base, and they are literally communicating.
I don't have a whole lot of time.
Have you personally had any experience with interdimensional beings?
What we're thinking of as aliens, they have infiltrated a lot of aspects of military intelligence. And they are not what they claimed to be.
We leave you much that is undone.
That's one small step for man.
There are great ideas undiscovered.
Visit asteroids. Visit the moon of Mars.
Remove one of truth's protective layers.
There's a monolith.
They want those major population centers wiped out.
Will you put your left hand on the Bible and swear to God that you walked on the moon?
One giant leap for mankind.
Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened.
Those challenges are yours.
We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society.
There are places to go beyond belief. Beyond belief.